Checking the microphone. Check 1, 2. Check, check.
Can you hear us now?
Yes.
Perfect, Shelley. Thank you for being here. I'm Carrie. I'll be the moderator.
Hi,
So
Terry.
I will try not to flub things up. They've got you placed nicely in line to just be able to field the questions. And I just know that I have the mental disconnect of like, oh, right, person on the screen. So I just really appreciate you being here, and I will do my very darndest. I did great. The one other forum, I had a virtual person. I should look this way so you can see me. But I just apologize in advance if I do flub it up. It's not personal. I just forget that the screen is a person. And your turn so the audience can see you well, but it's a little tricky from my angle. So anyway, feel free to holler, unmute yourself and holler if I skip you when you should be going.
Okay.
All right. Thank you for being here. We appreciate it.
I'll holler and laugh heartily. How do you connect? How did you connect? And something chimed. I assumed it was whatever that.
All right, good evening, everybody. My name is Riley Sjogren. I'm the Centennial Librarian and Meeting Room Specialist here at the Albany County Public Library. Welcome to the final League of Women Voters Candidate Forum. I want to start by giving a big thank you to the League of Women Voters for hosting, organizing, and putting in all the time and effort involved to make these forums happen. I think they are really an invaluable resource to the community, and they give everyone a great opportunity to learn more about the candidates that they'll be voting for. It's also really fantastic to have the forums here at the library. They fit in perfectly with what we're trying to do and with our mission, which if you haven't heard Rachel say it 9 times before, you'll hear me say it now, which is to build meaningful connections, inspire growth, cultivate curiosity, and enhance community. So yes, another big thank you to the League of Women Voters. I would like to thank the candidates for all coming, for their willingness to run, for being here, and just, putting themselves out there to be a part and run our community. And I'd like to thank the audience for being here and for taking this opportunity to learn more about the candidates, both in person, online, and in the future. One small technical note, though I think everyone here has kind of done this before, please make sure you talk into the microphones. They're important for the in-person audience, but they're essential for the online community to hear. And yeah, with that, I will hand it over to Nancy, who will explain a little bit more about tonight's forum. Thank you.
Turn that down. A little bit. He had to lean down. I have to stand on tiptoes. Can you all hear me? Okay. I'm Nancy Lockwood. As he mentioned, I'm the president of the State League of Women Voters here in Wyoming, and I was formerly the Laramie League president and have been in charge of these forums for many, many years, but I turned it over to Lynn and another capable crew this year, and so I'm kind of pinch hitting tonight because Lynn is not feeling well. So I want to welcome everybody to our final general election candidate forum. The League is proud to have the Albany County Public Library as our co-sponsor, and it extends special thanks to Rachel Crocker, the library director, also to Riley Sjogren here, who you just met, and sitting right adjacent to him is Dylan May, who's been coming faithfully to these forums as well, assisting with the tech pieces. We also extend further thanks to Kaylin Brooks, who's sitting in the back here. Kaylin is working as an intern for the Laramie League this election season and is newly employed by the University of Wyoming, and I didn't remember which department, so. Academic Affairs, thank you. This forum is being live streamed and recorded for viewing on YouTube. The recording for tonight's forum will be available in the next few days through a link posted on the Albany County Public Library's website. And I have heard a few comments from people that they aren't finding the link on the League's website. There is a link on the League's website under our Elections tab, but it links you back to the library. So save some time and just go straight to the library's webpage. As Riley mentioned, this evening, I think he did this, I was not listening that closely. This evening's forum is for candidates running for the following offices: Albany County Assessor, Albany County Treasurer, Albany County Attorney, Albany County Clerk of District Court, the Albany County Hospital District Trustees, and there are 2 seats open there, the Laramie Rivers Conservation District Supervisor, and there are 2 seats open there, a rural seat and an at-large seat, and the Albany County Fire District 1 Board of Directors, where there is 1 seat open. Obviously, not all candidates are here tonight. They were all invited, and we did not hear from many of them. I did know that Stacy Lamb, who is running for Albany County Clerk of District Court, was not going to be here. And Matthew Burkhart is running for the Albany County District Fire Board of Directors, and he was trying to get online, and he also prepared a statement. So I think I'm going to hang on to the prepared statement he gave me to read and see if we get him online, and if at the end of the forum we don't have him, I'll make sure to read that statement that he provided for us. All candidates who filed for these offices, as I said, were invited to participate. And we'll begin tonight's forum with information first about the general election and then go over some of the forum procedures. The general election is Tuesday, November 8. Registered voters can vote by absentee ballot or at their polling place on Election Day. Absentee ballots can be obtained from the Albany County Clerk's office by requesting a ballot in person at the office, over the phone, or online on their website. And that can be done through November 7. Absentee ballots can be returned directly to the clerk's office from 9 to 5. They can be placed in the drop box, which is available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and it's adjacent to the county clerk's election annex. Or the absentee ballots can be mailed in. They need to be received by the clerk at the clerk's office by Election Day on November 8. You may also, of course, vote at your polling place on Election Day, November 8, from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. You can register or change your registration to vote anytime at the county clerk's office through November 7. If you register or change your registration within 14 days of the election, you will be required to vote on that day as well in order to cast a ballot. So you can go into their office, register, and then receive your ballot at the same time. You may also register or change your registration at your polling place on Election Day. If you have any special needs, voting accommodations and aids are available at each polling place and at the clerk's office. The election judges can assist you with the polls. You may also contact the clerk's office to arrange in advance for assistance if you need it. Your polling place may have changed since the last general election due to the redistricting legislation passed by the legislature earlier this year. If you are a registered voter in Albany County, you should have received a postcard in the mail this spring with the location of your new polling place, or maybe the same polling place. Polling places are the same as they were for the primary election, except for District 14, Precincts 2 and 3. These voters will be voting at the New Slade Elementary School for the general election. We also have we don't have the maps up. I didn't check for that. We did earlier have maps up with the districts and precincts on them, but we do have some maps on this side table here that you can look at that show the district boundary lines on there and the precinct lines. You can also contact the county clerk's office to go to their website to find your polling place, as well as other information about voting in the election. We also have some information about the league on the table at the back of the room. And if you're interested in knowing more about the League of Women Voters or in becoming a member, please visit our website and Facebook page. In addition, if candidates have provided us with some information or literature about themselves, this is also available on this side table here. On October 15, the Laramie Boomerang published the League's Voters Guide. The guide can be picked up at the Boomerang's office for no cost, and the League has provided copies to limited locations as well around town. The candidate responses that are in the voter guide are also posted online at the website vote411.org, and you can actually go scan that in on your phone, the QR code if you want from the poster there, and it'll take you directly to the Vote 411 site. And there are a few available copies of the printed voter guide as well on that side table. At this time, I'd like to give an opportunity for any candidates and elected officials here tonight to come forward and very briefly introduce themselves. And if they would come forward to this mic here, that way the people who are online can hear you.
Good evening. My name is Kayla White, and I'm running for County Clerk.
Hello, I'm Sally King. My goodness, been a long day. And I'm running for Albany County Coroner.
Thank you. We will begin tonight's forum with questions for the candidates. We've solicited questions from the public prior to the forum and are also taking questions during the forum. Questions can be written and submitted at any time. There are pencils and pads of paper in each row of seats. If you have a question, write it down, raise your hand, and someone from the League will collect that question and bring them up to our moderator. Questions should be directed towards all candidates for a particular office, not towards a specific candidate. Each candidate will be given 90 seconds to respond to each question. We do have a timekeeper, or two, actually, they're going to trade off over here. Jamie and Al. We do, and they will hold up signs when you're approaching your time limit and at the conclusion of your time limit. The moderator may edit questions for clarity and appropriateness and may ask further questions to help expand upon an issue. In addition, the moderator may also vary the allowed response time based on the complexity of the question and overall time constraints of the forum. And the last 20 or 30 minutes or so of our time will be given over to informal conversation with audience members. And as a reminder to people, we are recording this. It will be on the YouTube channel, so that we ask that you please not record any of this on your own cell phones. And now I'm going to turn things over to our moderator tonight, Carrie Bennett. Carrie is a facilitator and mediator in private practice. She moved to Laramie in 2017 and loves the community here and has vowed she's never leaving. Outside of work, Carrie wrangles 2 young sons in an unruly garden. It's probably pretty much done by now. Carrie, well, we're still harvesting root vegetables in ours. Carrie is also on the board of Common Outdoor Ground, a local nonprofit that organizes volunteer projects on public lands in southeast Wyoming. She's also has been a moderator for some of our primary election forums this election season, and we're very pleased to have her returning as a moderator for our general election forums. So welcome, Carrie, and I'm going to turn things over to you. And if Matthew doesn't get on, key me in at the end to remind me. We're going to read a statement.
Sounds good. Thank you, Nancy. It is truly my pleasure to be here tonight, in part because my husband does bedtime by himself and I don't have to. But more seriously, because I just love democracy and these forums and these events to get to know the candidates and think together about the hard issues we're facing are just one of my favorite things to do. So thank you to the candidates for coming. Thank you to the audience for being here. I am going to lean on you all heavily tonight for questions. These are the positions that I know the least about, so if I have to wing it, you're gonna know, okay? So I'm gonna count on you to ask good questions and pass those up to me tonight, and give our candidates a good opportunity to share their ideas with you all. With that, audience members, I will tell you a few things as far as when I'm sorting questions. Make sure that you make it a question. Sometimes there are statements that might be valid or not, and I don't know, but I'm not gonna read a statement. Make sure there's a question in there. And if you have a question that's, don't you think it would be better if, try to rephrase that so it's open-ended. And if I read something that seems really narrow, I'm gonna try to broaden that to try to pick out what are the ideas in this question. So just a tip for you, the more open, you can ask a targeted question, but don't you think that is not maybe the best way to start a question. Think about how to solicit, draw out ideas, as opposed to just painting someone into a corner. I apologize in advance if we run out of time and I can't get to all the questions, but I think that we've got enough time tonight in just a few candidates. Candidates, please follow the timers. It gets real awkward if I have to wrangle you. It hasn't happened yet on this side of the border. When I did these candidates south side back in the day, I had to interrupt some people and it got real awkward. So thank you in advance for not making me do that tonight. All right, you didn't come to hear me. You came to hear the candidates. I'm going to ask folks to introduce themselves. We'll start with Shelley on the end and move this way. Candidates, just briefly, if you can tell us who you are, your party, if you are in a partisan race, and the position you're running for. Just these quick intros, no other details. We'll move down the line with introductions, and then we'll start with questions. Go ahead, Shelley. Hang on, Shelley, you're muted.
Thank you.
There you go. Go for it.
Hi, I'm Shelley Leonard, formerly Towler. I am running for assessor as a Democrat.
Thank you, Shelley. Go ahead, Chelsea.
My name is Chelsea Matthews, and I am running for County Assessor on the Republican ticket.
Thank you. And Terry, go ahead.
My name is Terry Rourke, and I'm a hospital trustee, and I'm running for another term, and it is a nonpartisan position.
Thank you. And Tracy.
I'm Tracy Fletcher. I am the county treasurer running for re-election and am a Democrat.
Thank you very much. We all just give me a heads up if Matt signs on, then we can let him introduce himself. Perfect. Thank you so much. All right, we're going to start with our questions for the assessor's position. I'm going to kick us off with a basic one, but there's a second part to this question. So I'll go in order down the table, but rotate. So Shelley, you'll have the first chance to answer this question, and then Chelsea will start first on the next round, and we'll just move down. So Shelley, if you could start us off, some folks might be unaware what the assessor does. So if you could kind of explain what the key duties of the assessor include. And then the second part is, which of these would you improve on? So current practices are functioning and going well, but what things would you improve on based on those duties? Shelley, go ahead.
The assessor assesses the value of real property, commercial and residential, and property as chattel for business. And their primary function is to value it for the purposes of taxation. And the part that I would improve on would definitely be getting the details right. I feel that there is a lot of disparity and just inaccurate information. I think that would help the situation across the county and create a more stable tax base.
Thank you, Shelley. Chelsea, same question to you.
Sure. So the primary duties of the assessor are to locate, list, and value all property in Albany County. This is a really huge task, so we have to do field inspections at least once every 6 years. We do these inspections so that we can ensure that the details are correct. We also are responsible for valuing business personal property. I feel like that's a self-reporting process, so it's pretty simple. I don't think there's much improvement needed there. We also are in charge of transferring ownership based on recorded documents, developing a mapping system that shows you the ownership boundary lines. We do stuff for special districts, we approve property exemptions. The list really goes on and on. I do have some ideas for improvement, but I think I may be close to out of time.
Thank you. Hopefully you all can weave, if you run out of time, you can weave those ideas into a subsequent question in one way. Terry, I'm going to give you a similar question. Folks may not be aware of the full scope of what the hospital board does. It's my understanding you currently serve on the board, so you have that experience. So same question to you, what's the gist of the duties, and what opportunities do you see for improvement if you were to be elected for the next term?
The hospital trustees own the hospital and the land, and we lease the hospital for a 401c3 corporation that we created that has a self-perpetuating board of trustees. We have oversight of that board. They must report to us twice a year, and we send that report on to the county clerk and the county commissioners as to the financial stability of the hospital, the quality of care, and safety.
And do you have ideas about improvement in any of those areas? This is no slight as an incumbent that you're doing anything wrong. But as areas for improvement?
One can always improve. Our hospital, your hospital, has been named one of the 20 best rural hospitals in the United States. Not Wyoming, not regionally, but in the United States. Does that mean we're perfect? Absolutely not. And we work constantly, especially management, on increasing quality scores, safety scores. We don't want you to fall on our hospital. And there are lots of other, issues, but we continually try to make that hospital a better place for the citizens of Albany County and, frankly, the surrounding regions.
Perfect. Thank you. think we're out of time. Perfect, thank you. Same now for Tracy. If you could explain, what does the treasurer do? And again, I think you're currently the treasurer, so no, throughout for people in positions, what improvements do you imagine making when elected?
Thank you, Carrie. Well, there's a lot of duties that the county treasurer does. First and foremost, because I'm here with assessor candidates, I work very closely with the assessor's office. We take all their assessed valuations and tax calculations, and we send that lovely bill that everybody loves to see in their mailbox this time of year. And also then we subsequently collect those taxes. Additionally, we work very closely with the county clerk's office to license motor vehicles. So the clerk titles them and they put the valuation of the factory price on there. And then we calculate what your license plates are going to be. Last week we actually had our annual audit, and we work very closely with the auditors because our office also is tasked with all the cash management for the county. We do the investments for any excess funds we might have. I shouldn't say excess because we don't really have excess, but maybe not used right away funds. So we do those investments, we manage the cash, we do so much, and it's hard. But to touch on the topic of what I would like to improve, our website needs some updating. We're all such in a digital age anymore that the better we can have information out there on the website, that I think the better off we can get information out to everybody, including the financials and you know, how to license your vehicle and such.
Thank you, I appreciate it. I'm going to go back to our assessor candidates, and since these two candidates are, there are only ones in the room that in the contested race, I'm going to ask Chelsea to answer first, and then I'll have Shelley answer, and then have a new question to you all, rather than going down the line and going back to a different question. So Chelsea, starting with you for this one, can you tell us, and I know you've already answered some of these questions in the voter guides, but can you tell us about what skills and expertise that you have that make you particularly well suited for this office?
Sure. So I am currently your county assessor. I was appointed back in November when my predecessor retired midterm. I've worked in that office for over 13 years. I've held a lot of the different positions throughout the office, so I understand every position that can be held in the office. I also hold the required certification as a property tax appraiser. This certification, you must have this certification to make any type of value changes, and I take continuing education every year to maintain this. I also have strong working relationships with other elected officials, county assessors throughout the state. I'm a member of the Wyoming Taxpayers Association, as well as the Wyoming Association of Assessing Officers. I consider myself an expert in the mass appraisal process, and it is my passion, and so,
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you. Shelley, same question to you. What expertise and qualities do you bring that will make you successful in this position?
I have a Juris Doctor from the University of Wyoming, so I have an extensive understanding of Wyoming law and statutes. I worked with Cal Waruka in the county attorney's office for a year and a half. I worked on some pretty notable cases. I have 40 years of experience in property investment, management, construction, and renovation. I was trained by Merrill Lynch in property valuation, in construction techniques and investment models. I've owned a lot of property in Albany County, and I've liaised with the tax assessors over the last 35 years many times. And there are a lot of inaccuracies at times. Properties sell and sellers take things with them, and the owner that then buys the property is paying taxes on a shed that isn't there. And I've certainly spoken to quite a few people in Albany County over the last few months that have been frustrated with not being able to get information corrected. And I think that erodes the confidence of taxpayers. And I really would like to get in and spend some time. I think I can go through the properties in Albany County, even though it's not 6 years yet.
Thank you, Shelley. New question now. We'll start with Terry. Terry, can you explain, there's been some questions with the belonging to the larger UC Health system, how that impacts the board's role and what space you all have. So I wonder if you could explain that, how the becoming a part of the UC system, if that changes your role on the board, or if not, just how you operate with that in that space now as part of a larger system.
I'm not sure, but you're talking about the UC Health System.
Correct.
Okay. A number of years ago, we decided as a board that a small rural hospital in the climate of health was not going to survive. You can see that all over Wyoming. Hospitals are closing or they're cutting back services, and we've not done either of those things. But we knew we needed a big partner, and so we sent out an RFP, eventually selected UC Health, and they have helped us in so many ways. And I'll just give you one example because I don't have a lot of time. Our electronic health records are in a system called Epic. That system is used by UC Health. So if you see a UC Health physician at the Anschutz campus, or you see them in Fort Collins or the Medical Center of the Rockies, or you see them here in Laramie, those medical records are all there. And as a small hospital, Epic wouldn't even talk to us. But we got that system through UC Health.
And does that change, as being a part of UC Health and the broader organization, does that change the board's role, or has the board, I can see the benefit that you're articulating, does it change the board's role in terms of what things you can influence and not? No.
No.
Okay.
There is no exchange of money except for a 5% surcharge that goes to UC Health for the CEO's salary. That's it. We also...
Oh, that's okay. Sorry, I asked a follow-up question and then I didn't add any time.
I
That's okay.
thought I'd get the whole time for the follow-up question.
We'll circle back on it. Give you more time to chew on it. It sounds like it hasn't changed the responsibilities for the board. So
this
that
hospital is under local control.
That's what I was curious about. Thank you. Thank you. Tracy, tell me about, with the treasurer's office and audience, by the way, I'm using mostly my own questions here, so if you could feed me some questions, I would welcome them. If you, your role seems prescribed by statute, right, in many ways. So I'm curious, given the constraints of statutes, what are the ways that treasurers stay up to date or innovate for the benefit of residents, obviously acknowledging that you work within fixed statute?
Well, there's a number of ways that we can keep ideas fresh. I'm also a member of the Wyoming Treasurers Association, so we network with other counties and other county treasurers and learn from them what works and maybe what doesn't work. Many of us are on the same software, although not all counties are. I'm also a member of the National Association of County Collectors, Treasurers, and Finance Officers, and it's amazing when you start networking outside our own state how similar many states are. There's some differences, of course, because other states collect differently or different timing. But getting ideas from them, because it's not, we don't have to recreate the wheel, basically. I have a bachelor's degree in accounting from the University of Wyoming, and so I try to stay in touch with some of my accounting professors and everything to stay in touch with any of those changes. I'm also a member of GASB, which is a Governmental Accounting Standards Board, which they're always coming out with new pronouncements to how we report or how we record transactions. So all of these resources we use to stay up to date and stay fresh in our ideas and come up with some new ideas.
Thank you. All right, this is going to seem odd because Terry just answered, but I'm going to start with Terry as the first answer next, right? Shelley
now,
started.
You tell Jamie to
Chelsea
give
started.
me the whole time.
Terry, you mentioned the benefits that y'all saw as becoming a part of the UC Health system. Can you? So that's ways that you all are innovating to kind of sustain the hospital in that way. How would you describe our talent that we have working in the hospital system? How would you describe the staff and the talent that comes there and carries out the work every day? And are there gaps that you see that are challenging on the personnel side? How would you describe the talent, thinking broadly about the hospital staff, and then what gaps do you see?
The people that we have at the hospital that I've encountered, and as you get older, you encounter more and more of them, I think are first rate. We do have a problem with nurses. This is not the only hospital that has a problem with nurses. We spend a lot of money on visiting nurses so that we can fully staff our hospital. We're trying to work with UW, with the community colleges, so that there's a pipeline coming into the hospital. But it's very difficult because a lot of the nursing programs in this country cannot get enough faculty to graduate enough nurses. And that is the real problem. It's not people that, they don't want to be nurses. There are a lot of people that want to be nurses. And so I would say that's our biggest challenge.
Thank you. Tracy, similar question to you. How would you describe the team of talent that you work with throughout the county, and what challenges do you see, or what gaps are tricky to navigate?
Well, first thing that comes to mind is just recently the state legislature, has adopted the monthly ad valorem mineral payments. And that has been a little bit of a challenge because our software is designed to take the 2 installments on property taxes each year. So with that monthly mineral collection, it also has a deferral. So producers, your big producers for oil and gas, aggregates, sand and gravel and those things, were allowed to defer their 2022 payments over a 13-year period. So we have to also manage that. Luckily, in our county, we're fairly mineral poor. We don't have much for oil and gas. We do have some, oddly enough, but we have more sand and gravel and limestone and those kind of commodities. So I learned from those bigger counties. Converse County has a lot, and the treasurer up in Converse County, Joel Shell, he has been instrumental in helping and lobbying and figuring all this out, and that is got to be the biggest challenge right now in our office.
Appreciate it. All right, kicking it back over now to Shelley and Chelsea, our assessor candidates. Your position is unique in some ways of having a very heavy technical aspect and also a very important human aspect, right, in communicating customer service, working with staff, et cetera. We've heard some of your qualifications on the technical side. Can you speak to your skill set on the human side and how how those skills would impact your service? And Shelley, you get the first go at this one.
Okay. I've worked with, in property investment, of course, I've worked with a lot of people and managing rental properties. I worked for a big, large national property corporation. So I've had that experience dealing with people a great deal. Also, I was on the hospital board with Terry, and it was pretty hands-on for a few years there. We worked pretty hard to get the hospital working well at that point. And my undergraduate degree is in communication theory, so it's a lot of sociology and psychology, and so I've really had quite a bit of experience in education, learning what makes people, how to communicate with people on a interpersonal level and also corporate and mass levels. So I think I'm pretty good at it, and So I think I would do that well. And I actually really look forward to meeting with people, and I don't mind hearing their frustrations. I don't mind listening to them and trying to find a solution to help people. I look forward to helping them understand what's a very complex sort of business. So thank you.
Thank you, Shelley. Chelsea, same question. Do you talk to us about the human side?
Yes, thank you. I actually feel like the human side is one of my really strong suits. I'm a very kind, empathetic person, and I like to be helpful. The favorite part of my job is the education side. I really like explaining to people why their value is what it is. My entire staff is really kind and humble and empathetic. We all understand that we work for the taxpayer and that we need to always be respectful. And we're here. If you have concerns or questions, please come in. We are here to help you, and we want it to be right. We really do.
Thank you. All right, Tracy, you get to go first on the next one. I know it's confusing.
Well, the small crowd here.
I appreciate your flexibility, but it's your turn. Tracy, can you tell us, how do you measure success in your office? How do you know if you're doing a good job and identify when there's problems? What does success look like?
I think one of the greatest ways that I kind of measure success is that line long or is that line short?
As a line stander, I appreciate that. I don't know if it's the whole story, but
that is one of my biggest things is I don't like the lines, so we try to address everybody. And the lines are inevitable because, we are still a small staffed office. But so that is one way. Another way is the property tax collections. Most counties don't collect over 90% of their taxes in the first year. My collection rate in my office runs from 96 to 98%. So the more we can get the money in the bank and, gain interest and earn more money for the county and for the residents, and the better we can fund all the different things, the county roads, the payroll for the staff, public health, all those things. So also, another measure of success would be how many complaints I get. I know there's times where there's customers that maybe just don't mix well with the staff members because we can't all get along with everybody all the time, but we really do try to work together closely, and nobody wants to pay taxes, so I feel we should make it a pleasant experience and make it so where people would like to come in.
Thank you, Tracy. I appreciate that. All right, back to our assessor candidates. Thank you. Question from the audience. Appreciate it. Whoever brought this to me. I would like you to imagine that I am a first-time home buyer. This is not so far off from the reality a few years back for me. Staring at this piece of paper explaining things, how would you explain to me, just imagine like single home owner, how their property values and thus their property taxes are calculated? How would you tackle that? And Shelley, you get to go first.
I'm sorry, would you repeat the last portion of the question?
Yeah, just how would you explain if I were a first-time home owner looking at the mailings that I get, assuming the money's coming out of my escrow and all those things, but if I were confused about how that's calculated, especially if it changed year to year, how would you explain the methods used to determine the value of the property and the taxes then?
That's why I think we need in addition to having something online, we need a written packet so that they can sit and go over how it's assessed. A property is assessed not just based on what market value is. It's based on construction, type of building, condition of building, and so when you sit down with a taxpayer, you have to explain. You usually have to have comps that will that are similar to their homes, not too far away, and they don't always match. So you have to explain to them how you arrive at the value of their property compared to the comps that you're using. And that alone is fairly complex. But also then you are talking about an assessment based on tax levies for the school or different things that go into the taxation of the property. Then it's calculated off at a percentage, 9%, say, of the value. So it's not too easy to explain in 90 seconds. It's fairly complex, and my preference would be to give them some material and then sit down with them.
Thank you, Shelley. Chelsea, same question to you. How would you explain it to me?
The first thing that I would do is explain how so on your notice of value, it'll break out your land value and your building values. So the first thing I would do is explain how we arrived at that land value. That's employed by either 3 methods. It's either sales comparison, allocation, or abstraction. And then I would explain to you how we arrived at the building value. And that is almost always what it would cost to replace it new, minus depreciation, and then we do a market adjustment based on all of the sales in the neighborhood, not just certain comps. We have to use every sale that occurred within that neighborhood, and then we adjust that replacement cost new less depreciation value up or down depending on the market. That value, the land value plus your building value, gives you your fair market value, which would be pretty close to what it should sell for. And then for residential properties, we tax you on 9.5%. So if you take that market value, multiply it by 9.5 or 0.95, that gives you your assessed value. And then if you're in the city, your mill levy will be 73. So you multiply that assessed value by 0.073, and that gives you your tax dollars.
Thank you, Chelsea. Terry, next question is to you. You mentioned the challenge of keeping nursing staff here. Broadly, what do you think we can do to better retain the staff we have and recruit healthcare workers to our community?
Well, I think that is more in the realm of management than the trustees. The trustees really don't hire anybody. Certainly we can encourage and we can support management in their effort, but it's a systemic problem that is larger than just a shortage of nurses. As I said earlier, there's a shortage of faculty members who would train nurses. And until we get that problem solved, I'm not so sure we're going to get the nursing problem solved.
Thank you. Chelsea, I'm going to have you answer the next question first for the assessor candidates. One of the primary forums that I moderated, I had a Frankenstein question that I ultimately turned into dirt roads in West Laramie, what the heck? But then we have a question here asking if there's truth to the widely held belief that property taxes in West Laramie would soar if they had paved roads and sidewalks. So the question is, have you ever done an example calculation of how the market value might change with street improvements? Appreciate the the throwback to my what the heck question. Have you done that type of calculation, and how might you address that concern that those types of improvements would make those property value or property taxes soar?
I have not done those types of calculations. However, there's like one block that's paved off of Snowy Range, and from what I've seen, the homes that sell in West Laramie on that one block of paved street versus the ones on the dirt road, there's really no difference. We're really reactive to the market, so I don't set the market. So I mean, I really wouldn't know until all of West Laramie was paved, but I would suspect that it wouldn't be a huge increase.
Okay, Thank you. So Shelley, same question to you. How would you address that concern for property values in West Laramie with paving and sidewalks?
Well, I'm not the assessor, so I don't have a budget for doing the research or examining that. But I would imagine there would be some raise in value. I don't believe that not having to drive around an 8-foot wide, 3-foot deep pothole is going to be that big a boon in value. Some of the streets over there are pretty bad. I think it's to the point of not utilitarian. I don't think that that would be my assessment, is it wouldn't create a big jump in value. They would then, have what other people in Laramie and Albany County have as decent roads to drive down. And I just want to say, with regards to the comps, I've spoken to a person who has asked for a reassessment of their property, and they didn't get adequate comps. So, I mean, I'm really having a hard time with I also have an example of an owner that spoke to me about 176 square feet in his garage that was walled off and called heated living space. Explaining assessment to somebody who has 176 extra feet attached to his house is, it's a little difficult.
Thank you, Shelley. Terry, I think you get to go next. I am diligently tracking to make sure you all answer the same number of questions, and I'm trying to keep track of who's going first each time, so I apologize if I have flubbed it up already. I am doing my best. Terry, on the hospital board, the hospital is a really large institution, and large institutions are notorious for being difficult to change. Also, we have local control, which is lovely to have that autonomy. When you think about the direction the hospital is going in, how much change do you foresee in the near future that you might kind of be navigating with the board versus kind of a steady as she goes approach? How much change do you expect to see in the next few years of your term?
Well, the next big project for the hospital, which the foundation is helping us with, is a complete remodel of the emergency department. That department hasn't been remodeled since that hospital was built in 1970. So I would say that's the next project. Down the road, I can't tell you exactly when, but the hospital will have to be replaced. Fortunately, we're in a very good financial position to finance that reconstruction. We've not talked a lot about it. We know it's going to happen. It has to happen. I mean, structures don't last forever. And so that, I would say that's on the horizon. In terms of maybe an expansion of services, I think right now with the specialists who are affiliated with UC Health who come to visit, or you can go visit at their offices, I think we're in very good shape, as well as our primary care physicians.
Thank you. Tracy, you are running unopposed. Why do you think you're running unopposed? If you want to toss your hair and say, I'm just so good, this is your time. No, why do you think you're running unopposed? And do you think that presents a problem with consent of the governed, that voters in your race don't have a choice?
What you said. No, just kidding. I don't honestly know why I'm running unopposed, other than my feeling is it's not really an easy job. It's keeping track of a lot of money. It's the accounting. And most people, they call me a number nerd, so maybe they don't want to be a number nerd too. But I like doing the accounting. I like math. I like those things. That probably makes me a kind of an outlier in some worlds. But other than that, they just probably don't understand what the county treasurer does, honestly. I can remember just earlier this evening, you asked me what I do, Carrie. So that's
Ignorance of the populace, apparently.
I think that means I probably need to get out and educate a little more and let people know what the county treasurer does. And in a race, I think it's always important for people to have a choice. I'm kind of thankful they don't, though, because it gives me a little more job security. But it's always good to have a choice in democracy and let people have the final say in who they want running their county for them.
Thank you, Tracy. I appreciate that. Yes. Swapping our timekeepers. Thank you. Another underappreciated, perhaps thankless job, the timekeeper. No. I'm a former educator, and I know the challenge of recruiting math teachers is not so different than the challenge of recruiting nurses, and that there's, and in part because nursing instructors are hard to come by, but perhaps we need just more math nerds, all around, numbers nerds, excuse me, all around. More questions. I love the audience questions. It's so much easier than making them up myself. All right, Terry, you get to answer the next question first. Promise I have a system here. Do you think that it's important that hospital board members come from the healthcare field, or do you think that it's a benefit to have folks from other backgrounds and with different qualities?
I think for the trustees, as they're now constituted, anybody can be a trustee, because our responsibilities aren't for the day-to-day operation in partnership with management. That role falls to the directors. And so we have oversight. We own the property. We receive the 3 mil property tax that goes to folks who cannot pay their bills but have to have treatment. And you have to realize that we cannot turn away a patient. If they can't pay, they can't pay, but we treat them. And we don't dump them someplace else. So I'd say there's no special talent required to be a hospital trustee.
Thank you. Tracy, you get to go to the next one. I lost track of which one I was going to ask you. You supervise staff, aside from number nerddom, and maybe that's not even number one. What are the skills and qualities of folks that you would hire to work in your office?
Of my staff, I try to choose people that have, first of all, good listening skills. Most people that come in the office can't really articulate what they want. As far as license plates, sometimes it's a confusing situation, or they've moved from another state, which is completely different than ours. Another one is empathy, because sometimes people are in a situation, maybe they can't afford their property taxes, and unfortunately we had to place a tax lien on their property. And I would never want anybody in my staff to judge why that person has fallen behind on their taxes, because there's so many life circumstances. I think COVID also has taught us very well about that. The number nerd thing kind of helps out too when they come to balancing their money, but most of the things are taught, most of the things are done by the computer, and those can be usually always learned. Customer service skills are hugely important because all of our customers are taxpayers, and all of you guys, and so we got to be able to communicate with any different kind of person that comes in the door.
Thank you. Shelley, I'm going to pose a similar question to you. assessor's office has staff. Yeah, I just want to confirm because I'm ignorant. Thank you. I thought that Chelsea mentioned the team. I was like, okay, there's a team. Thank you. This is why I need the audience questions. Shelley, what are the skills and qualifications that you would look for if you had openings in the assessor's office? What qualities would you look for to hire?
Well, I definitely would be looking for people who could use a measuring tape and also do calculations and understand geometry. What I have found in a survey is a lot of the square footage is off. Like there's a house across the highway from me here that's 72 feet on one side. It's a rectangle, but it's 66 feet on the other side. And you just can't get to the square footage that they have for it. So that's really important. And then having the empathy and personal skills to not argue with somebody about it when they come in and tell them they've got it right. I mean, it's been frustrating for me to listen to people talk about their issues. And some of them are just basic. If somebody went out there with a measuring tape, it would be fixed just like that. And I think that that's really important to be able to do that hands-on, realizing that you work for them, you work for the taxpayers. You're not, it's not an adversarial or situation. It's, let's get it right. And so I would be looking for somebody with people skills, but I'd also be looking for somebody that knows what they're looking at. And I would try to find people who understand building types and construction.
Thank you, Shelley. Chelsea, same question to you.
Sure, thank you. So to be hired on with the county, you have to pass your standard background checks and drug screenings. Also, to be employed in my office, if you're part of the field team, you have to have a clean driving record. When I'm hiring, I look for people who can, number one, pass the classes to become certified. Because unfortunately, if you can't pass the classes, then you can't change value, which means you can't work in the assessor's office. I am also, I touched on how my staff is very kind and humble and empathetic. That is really something that it's a personality trait, I feel like, and it's kind of something that's hard to train. So I'm always looking for those types of qualities when I'm hiring. My staff does a very, very good job. We do know how to run a measuring tape. We know what types of houses we're looking at. I can't stress enough, if you have questions or concerns, call us and we will come remeasure.
Thank you, I appreciate that. Tracy, oddly enough, back to you. There is a system, I think I'm doing it right. Can you explain your role in the budgeting process, kind of bringing the number nerd superpower to that budgeting process? And if you could touch on what role forecasting has in that and how you juggle that uncertainty.
For my role in budgeting for the county, I work very closely with the county clerk. The county clerk by statute is the budget officer for the county. I have the revenues, which you can't have expenditures if you don't have revenues coming in. So together we work together with that superpower of the number nerdness, and we make sure we can balance the budget because we do have to have legally a balanced budget. Far as, what was the second part?
Forecasting and the
forecasting.
uncertainty, yeah.
Thank you, sorry.
I'm glad I remembered too.
As far as forecasting, I've been in the office for 19 years. Back 19 years ago, I started a spreadsheet that has every single county revenue. It's obviously changed. There's been revenues that we don't receive anymore. There's also revenues that we now get that we didn't get in the past. I can give a complete history, and I have the trend lines, and I can show what we will or should hopefully receive. I also work really closely with Assessor Matthews when it comes time for budgeting, because we have to know what that assessed valuation and the taxation is going to be. And I can come pretty darn close. I came within $70,000 of estimating what our property tax receipts would be, and that was $70,000 more than what I projected. So that was a good thing. Always better to be more than less.
Thank you for that. All right, Chelsea, I'm going to have you go first for the next one. Can you explain the process? You mentioned welcoming people into the office to ask questions and to see you all as an asset. Can you explain the process if a taxpayer disputes the value, the assessed value of their property? Can you explain how that works?
Of course. So really, we encourage anyone, if you have any questions about your value, to come in at any time of year. Really, you can call, email, or come in. And we will sit down and go over with you how we arrived at that value and why. If the property has buildings on it, then we will print out it's called a cost breakdown, and we'll give you your sketch so that we can go over all of the details of your property and make sure all of that is accurate. If it's just vacant land, then we'll explain how those values were arrived. Of course, we'll listen to any concerns that the property owner has so that we can address those, as long as I can do it legally. And then we also have a 30-day appeal period that occurs every year in April. And it's only during this 30-day appeal period that I can actually release the sales that we've used to value your home, because Wyoming is a non-disclosure state. So really, this 30-day appeal period is really imperative. And I really encourage property owners to reach out to us if you have questions or concerns when you get that notice of value, because that's when that 30 days starts.
Thank you. And Shelley, how would you describe that appeal process if they dispute
Well,
the value?
that's exactly how it works. Although, I think that during the year when a taxpayer comes in with inaccuracies, it should be dealt with. And it's not the experience that Chelsea is describing. It's a completely other experience. And even my own house, when I pointed out that the measurements were wrong, the return response was, "We think we have it correct." A 9-inch foundation doesn't add 2.5 feet on a wall. And I built my house. I was the builder. I have provided the tax assessor's office with the floor plan that the architect created numerous times, yet it keeps returning to somebody's measurements that don't match reality. So it's not that easy. It's a difficult process. The gentleman that had 176 extra square feet with a mythical wall in his garage then found a week later that somebody added a wall to the other side of the house. The square footage was never corrected. Fortunately, he sold the house, so he got out of dealing with the issue, but the square footage of the house is still incorrect. And it's not an easy process. And I think it should be. I think that, and if I'm the tax assessor and my staff is having difficulty with an issue like that, I'm going to get involved, and I'm going to make sure that the details are correct so people aren't this frustrated and upset about the process.
Thank you, Shelley. Terry, next question to you. Currently, the hospital district mill levy proceeds go to the Ivinson Hospital uncompensated care costs to offset those. Is there any flexibility to earmark some of those funds to other purposes, for example, to the Laramie Downtown Clinic or something else?
I wish they were. I think the downtown clinic does a tremendous job for people who simply don't have the means to get care. But they are not a hospital. And once you go beyond the downtown clinic or the University of Wyoming clinic, and you need something that you need to be hospitalized for, that becomes very, very costly. And the mill levy, since I've been on the board, has increased from about $500,000 to $600,000 to about 1.3 or 4. And that money is desperately needed. There are many, many poor people in Albany County, and to deny them care would just be unconscionable. So this helps. But the hospital also, I don't know, puts in about $6 million worth of uncompensated care every year because the mill levy is just not enough. So yes, I'd love to share it, but we need it.
Thank you. All right, Shelley, you get to have the first go at the next question. You've mentioned just how important attention to detail and accuracy on a very individualized scale is. The other side of that is efficiency and speed and processing things at a tremendous scale, even in our small-ish county with limited staff. I wonder how you would address balancing those things so you can have confidence that your office is getting it right. And also to call back to Tracy's idea of short lines might be a sign you're doing some things right. How would you balance that need for accuracy with efficiency and limited staff and time?
Well, as some people around the county will tell you, I'm kind of a workaholic. I would pick up extra slack if necessary. I just feel it's really important that people feel comfortable coming in and talking about these issues. This is the single most important thing that the average citizen, their residential property, will ever own in their life. Some of them, that's all of their assets are in their house. So, I think that getting the details right, once we do that in the first year, and I don't know what the exact census is right now. In 2010, there were about 5,000 homes in living spaces in Albany County, and it's increased certainly since then. There's been a lot of building, but even at 6,000, if you did 18 houses a day, 18 properties a day, vacant and, sheds on them, not whole houses, 18 a day, you would get through all of them in a year. And I think it's doable. And of course, some of them, when you approach them, there's no issues. There's no issues with some properties. So those are going to be easy. The ones there's issues with, and I was looking at one last night that's listed as vacant land and there's 4 buildings on it. It's how long has that been like that? Those are the kind of things that the detail's important. So I would make it a priority. And then, of course, there is a lot of other things to do, including making sure that people know about the senior rebate and the low income discounts. Most people don't know about them.
Thank you, Shelley. Chelsea, same question to you. How do you balance that attention to detail and accuracy with efficiency and limited resources?
Sure. So the first thing that I've done is, the first thing that I did, and I did this many years ago actually, is I developed a plan so that we would hit every property at least once every 6 years. Again, I know that's once every 6 years, but that's our statutory requirement and we are meeting that. There's also newer technology that I'm actually receiving right now. A company called EagleView is flying over our entire county, and I will get updated imagery from that, and then I will be able to employ a program that's called Change Finder, and it's going to flag accounts where previous imagery is different from current imagery so that my field team can pay attention to that. I've also, throughout my years in the assessor's office, I've developed many manuals that helps my field team be more consistent. And I've also developed a proofing system to make sure that we're being accurate. And we have way more than 6,000 buildings in our county. We have 20,000 parcels alone. And if you think about all of the agricultural properties that we have that have 30 plus buildings, it's easy math that it's way more than 6,000 buildings.
Thank you. Terry, next question to you. I don't entirely know if I'll get this context right, but you mentioned providing care to folks who can't pay and how the mill levy only goes so far in covering certain expenses. What do you think the hospital's balance sheets should look like? And are there ways that you could, are there any other changes that you see need to be made to keep those balance sheets in good position?
I don't really see any changes that need to be made. We're one of the healthiest hospitals in the state of Wyoming, if not some surrounding areas as well. I get an email that's called Becker's Hospital Review, And it's amazing to me how many hospitals in this country are closing. And they're not just little rural hospitals. You know, you recently heard that Rollins will no longer deliver babies. There are 2 other hospitals in Wyoming that will no longer do that. We are doing that, and we're reaching out to Carbon County, both in Saratoga and Rollins, to do prenatal care. So our balance sheet is extremely strong, and we want it to be because, as I mentioned before, at some point, we're going to have to build a new hospital, and we don't want that to be on the back of the people who pay for our services.
Thank you. Tracy, question to you. Are there any changes to state statute that apply to your office that you would recommend? So thinking about the current constraints, are there things that could be changed at that level that you don't control but that you would advocate for that would make you better able to do your job or make things better for our community?
One item that, as treasurers of across the state of Wyoming, that we've kind of lobbied for in the past was the changing the advertising requirement for our tax sales. Every year, we're required to advertise all the delinquent tax properties that we are unpaid, of course, and then that we would be taken to tax sale if they remain unpaid. Those advertisements, you probably see them in August. We advertise 3 weeks in August, 3 generally consecutive weeks in August. They're about 6 pages long in the legal ads. And they get whittled down to maybe about 4 pages. Those are extremely expensive. What we would like to do is maybe print the full advertising on the first week, and then the weeks after, direct everybody to our website. Those are that's one little thing to save some money for the county, but it also gets quite a bit of opposition from the American Press or the Associated Press to do that, because we do pay a great portion of the newspapers across the state. Other than that, I think everything kind of runs fairly smoothly. We don't have control over the motor vehicle fees. If we change that structure, which a lot of people have lobbied for, it would greatly reduce the income into the county and the revenue of the county to pay for all the services for roads and public health and those other items, and education and hospitals. So I would not recommend that.
Thank you. Very concise ending there. Great. We're going to go to Chelsea for our next question. Chelsea, you touched on, I had a question from the audience. I wasn't sure which office this was for, but I think based on your last answer, it might be appropriate for you all. You mentioned the flyover data as a new tool to roll in. So this question is there a system or software or vendor that could facilitate your office for better executing your role? So thinking about customer service, helping streamline operations, how would those things help or hinder? So you touched on that one idea. You can expand on that, or if there are other ideas you have, please go there, and then Shelley will turn to you with similar question, same question. Go ahead, Chelsea.
Sure. So the main software that we use to value property is actually a software provided by the state of Wyoming, and it's employed by all county assessors throughout the state. And the reason that they do this is so that we're consistent not only throughout our county, but throughout the whole state of Wyoming. So that if you own property in Albany County and Laramie County, you can get the same cost breakdown that I referred to earlier. You can get the same sketches. You can get all of the same reports from every county office, which is really useful. Something that's integrated with our software is a sketching system called Apex. And so when our field team goes out and measures, they sketch that onto graphing paper, and then we go back in and we enter that into our sketching software. And then when we save it, it calculates all of our square footages and everything for us and integrates that into our system. Like I mentioned before and touched on, Eagle View is the most exciting thing. We will be able to share all of this imagery with some of our other government offices. It's going to help with county planning, road and bridge, the fire department if they want it, city police, the sheriffs. It will just be a really useful tool that, because our county is so large, that, you know, if there's a culvert that needs worked on and Rob from Road and Bridge wants to look at it, he can just use the imagery.
Thank you. Shelley, same question to you. Is there a software system or vendor that could help make the office better, and both for customer service and your own internal efficiencies, and how would it help or hinder the office? Go ahead.
Yes, well, clearly the state provides the software that calculates certain aspects of taxing. But again, it's all relative if the details are not correct. And this gentleman I spoke about before, the extra 176 square feet added over $24,000 to the value of his house. So it's all about data entry as well. I'm not familiar with the state software because I don't have access to it. When I do have access to it, you know, one of the really key important things, and this, I've used big data software when I worked for a large national property corporation, you know, managing budgets of $33 million. And it really is all about getting the data entry right as well. And looking at something from an aerial view will certainly tell you, maybe I need to go out and look at that, but you still have to go out and make sure your information is correct when you put it in there.
Thank you, Shelley. Terry, question to you. Similar to what I asked Tracy before, are there statutes either at a state or federal level that you would advocate for changing, knowing that it's outside of your control, but statutes that you would advocate for changing that would make things easier for the hospital to do its best work?
Well, there's certainly one thing I would advocate, and that would help all the hospitals in Wyoming. I simply do not understand why our legislature will not expand Medicaid. When I was president of the university, I locked horns with the legislature on many issues, but I just, as a citizen, don't understand this. I've heard the arguments. To me, they're specious. Every hospital in Wyoming would benefit if that were expanded. So yes, I would advocate for that.
Thank you. Always good to have a rabble-rouser in the president's office. I don't know how it works in the hospital board, but thank you.
We try to be nice.
Nice, good, good. All right, thank you. Tracy, let's go to you. Let's talk about technology in your office. Are there systems or software? I imagine some of your software is what it is, but are there kind of those technological improvements that could make things better in the treasurer's office?
As a matter of fact, there is.
A shiny new technology. Go ahead.
Well, our major software that we use is called TaxWise, and what that does is calculate the motor vehicle and the property tax. We also have another accounting software, which the county, since we've been growing and growing and growing, we've kind of outgrown our accounting software. So I am actually looking at updating the software for the accounting to enterprise resource planning system, which would encompass our TaxWise system. It would encompass all the other functions within the county, like HR, the accounting, the payroll, and all those things, and it would make it more integrated and be actually a huge time saver. Currently, my deputy, Sunny, does the month-end processing, which divvies up all the mill levy monies to the hospital and the school districts and everyone else who receives mill levy monies. And that takes her about a day right now because we have to manually do it. This new system would integrate seamlessly. It would be about a push of a button, and everything would be transmitted into the accounting software. It also would be easier to create the financial reports for the auditors, and they would be really happy with me for that, because that our current system don't have the most user-friendly financial statements. Some of us who have been in the office or worked at the county for some time, we know our way around them, but it's for the outside people, they're really hard to understand.
Thank you. I appreciate that. All right, Terry, you get to have the first go at question number 10. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Good. Let me come
Until I
up with a
hear
question.
Until I hear the question.
Terry, you have served on the hospital board before. We know Shelley is a workaholic. Why are you such a glutton for punishment? Why are you coming back for more?
Our hospital has gone through some bad times when we had some board members that had an agenda to get rid of some of management. We also have had bad management in the early years that I was on the board. And I would come home feeling very frustrated from those meetings. But I knew that if I quit, the people that I disagreed with would win. And I am not a quitter. I love this community. We've lived here for 35 years. We've had opportunities to live elsewhere, but we chose not to. And one of the things that I feel that I can do is to do whatever is possible to help us have the best hospital that we possibly can. That not only affects people who are ill, it affects economic development. It affects a lot of things. People don't want to live someplace where you can't get health care. So I want to be a part of being sure that everybody listening and in this room gets the care they need.
Thank you, Terry. Tracy, same question to you. We know you're a numbers nerd. Why are you coming back for more?
I gotta agree with Terry. I love this community. I've been here 20 years, 21 years, and it's just been home. I've have kids that have been in the 4-H and FFA, and I've seen the generosity of this community, and I would like to help take care of the citizens. Another reason would be I've also helped taxpayers. I spoke a little bit about the tax lien situations where people have different life circumstances that sometimes they can't pay their taxes. And I remember a specific taxpayer that I had to give her the hard news that she had a tax lien on her property and was very close to getting a tax deed issued and losing her property on her home. And she thanked me for being honest and telling her, and then I'm going to get choked up on this one because I can still picture the day. But she went out, she ended up getting a loan, and then she came in and was so thankful. And I took a picture because she gave me a kiss on the cheek with her red lipstick. And now to this day is making those differences in those people's lives and helping them in any way I can.
Short lines and a kiss on the cheek. You know you're doing something right now. Thank you for that. All right, question number 10. We're starting with Shelley for this one. Shelley, let's go back to the legislative changes, thinking beyond your office. Similar question that I asked others. Would you advocate for changes to state statutes that apply to your office? Explain what those would be. Go ahead.
I'd like to see the senior and low income discount be a more permanent aspect. The veterans exemption is, and I think that it could be done without it being burdensome. And so I would like to certainly ask the legislature for more leeway for counties to offer rebates and discounts for seniors and low-income people. It's been tough the last 3 years, and it's been tough for some people longer. A lot of people on Social Security that fall into certain categories, one of them called the knothole, really don't get very much, and the cost of Medicare has gone up as well. So that's something, and also, I think the legislature in some areas need to give the local assessors a little more discretion when it comes to certain types of valuations on properties. Some property, looking at something as it sits on a foundation and being able to look at the actual condition of the property, I think there needs to be a little more discretion. There also needs to be a little more discretion with some of the business property. There certainly has been a lot of discussion about that. I've spoken to a lot of people who feel they have not been treated properly in that aspect as well.
Thank you, Shelley. Chelsea, same question to you.
Yes, the first change that I would absolutely love that would make my life and my staff's life so much easier is if we could release the sales information year-round, not just during that 30-day appeal period that I was talking about. I'm all about government transparency, and then when someone comes in my office and I'm like, we used sales, but I can't show them to you right now, is the worst. So getting that available year-round would be amazing. I also have been really actively working with legislation and other county assessors throughout the state on what we can do about these inflated property values. And there are a lot of really good ideas being kicked out there, and there's some that are maybe not so great, but and some of them would bring some immediate relief, so it could go effective now, and some of them would require a change in our Wyoming Constitution. I personally like the idea of having a cap. So let's say we follow the market. I raise everyone's values to what they're selling for, and then we say, oh, it went over 6%. We can't do that, so we cap it. There's also another really great one that's being thrown out there, and it's called a homeowner's tax credit, where you would have to be a Wyoming resident for a certain number of years, and then they will, once you hit that qualification, they'll give you, say, $50,000 off of your market value, which would lower your taxes.
Thank you, Chelsea. We are just about out of time. We're going to have some closing statements, but I'm going to give our assessors one more question, if that's okay, since they're the ones that are in the head-to-head race today. And I'll toss the same question to you all. Chelsea, you get to go first for this one. Same question that I asked the others. You're currently serving in this role. Why do you want to do it again? And then Shelley will go to you for why you want the role too. Go ahead, Chelsea.
Sure. I am running because, like everyone sitting up here, I absolutely love this county. It's my home. I was born and raised here, and I really enjoy being a public servant. As I touched on before, the educational part is my favorite part of my job. And when a taxpayer comes in and they're upset and they're angry and they don't understand why the value is what it is, and I can sit down with that person and I can listen to their concerns and I can calm them down and I can explain the whole process, and they leave understanding. And I wouldn't say they're 100% happy, but at least they know that I didn't just pull a random number out of the hat, that they understand the entire process. I'm also running because I don't know. I guess I'm just really, really passionate about it, and it's something that I've worked towards for a really long time. And I started in the office in 2009, and within the first week, I knew that I wanted to be county assessor one day.
Thank you, Chelsea. Shelley, same question to you. Why the heck are you running for this position? Why do you want the job?
Well, I do. I come from a long line of military and public servant people, so it's kind of in the blood. I like to help people. And also, I love this county. I've lived here. I've never thought about leaving. Whenever friends of mine have suggested you should go south where it's warmer, I think about it for a little while. I say, well, why would I want to leave? So I'm here for the long haul. I've been here 35 years. I have relatives in the state, in the northern part of the state. And for 25 years, I've experienced obstacles with, or on this house, but also for 35 years, I've experienced obstacles for the assessors. I like to think I could do a little better. It would be important to me to be of service to the people of Albany County, but it also would be good for my soul too. I get something back from helping people in the county. It's why I was on the hospital board. I think we did a great job solving those issues we had during that time. And I have to say, Terry is very dedicated, and I think he's a little bit of a workaholic too. He's still hanging in there, and I appreciate everything he's doing there. It has been a great thing to know him. I want to get it right for the people of Albany County, and a lot of them are my friends and neighbors and, you know, people that I love.
Thank you, Shelley. It has been my pleasure getting to throw questions at you all night. Audience, can you help me and thank the candidates for their participation tonight? And candidates, can you help me in thanking the audience for feeding me quality questions and coming and caring? We have some closing remarks from the league, and I think Matt was not able to sign on. All right, so we've got a statement from Matt Burkhart, who's running for the fire district position. So.
I'll start with Matt Burkhart's statement here, and I just want to make a few comments here about this, the position that he's running for. He is running for the position of the Albany County Fire District 1 Board of Directors. There's only one seat open right now for that. It's a 3-member board, and the only people who vote for this position are people who live in that district. Only the residents of the district, of that fire district, vote. So you may not see this on your ballots. That's in case you get confused about that. The district covers most of the southern half of the county outside the city limits. And so here is Matt's statement. My name is Matt Burkhart, and I'm running for Albany County Fire District 1 Board of Directors. I would like to thank the League of Women Voters for the invitation to this forum and their hard work in educating local voters about the candidates. I have been a resident of the rural Albany County since 1997 and am currently the Albany County Fire District No. 1 Board Secretary. I was appointed in January 2022 to fill a vacant board position. The district covers the rural portions of Albany County and consists of 6 volunteer fire departments located in the southern part of the county. All of our responders are volunteers. I am currently a wildland and structural firefighter on the Big Laramie Volunteer Fire Department, as well as an advanced emergency medical technician. I have a master's degree in electrical engineering from UW, as well as a professional certificate in construction management, also from UW. If elected, I will assure that the fire district effectively and transparently uses taxpayer funds to give our volunteer firefighters the training, equipment, and resources they need to protect property, suppress fires, and save lives. My goal is to provide effective fire protection and life safety for taxpayers while maintaining volunteer firefighter safety. Every county resident deserves a timely and effective response when they call 911 for fire emergencies. As a firefighter, I understand how important the safety of our responders is. They deserve the proper training, equipment, and PPE, and I think that refers to personal protective equipment. So not only can they serve county residents, but so they can return home to their families safe and sound. I will work to expand volunteer firefighter recruitment and retention, as well as interoperability of departments to achieve a strong and unified response. We are neighbors serving neighbors, and together firefighters in the district will provide effective fire protection services. Along with this comes education. Developing outreach for fire prevention and defensible space is a priority so residents know what they can do to protect their properties and their families before an emergency occurs. I am exploring opportunities to improve rural access to emergency medical services. While the Albany County Fire District 1 was created to provide fire protection services, the district can take a leadership role in helping to ensure rural EMS service through partnerships and dialogues with the Laramie Fire Department, Albany County Commissioners, the Hospital Board, and the State of Wyoming Office of Emergency Medical Services. Tax revenues have not kept pace with the increased cost of training and equipment. I promise to make every tax dollar entrusted to the district work effectively. Please reach out to me with your questions and concerns. I'm here to listen, and thank you for your vote and support. So in my closing here, I also want to thank Carrie as our moderator. I'm looking, where'd she go? Well, there she is back there. And as she did, to thank our candidates that are here tonight, and to thank you as audience members for coming out and becoming more educated and helping others become educated by asking your questions. And just as reminders, the YouTube recordings for this, for those of you who might be listening online or have friends there, you want to mention that too, will be available soon. I think you're getting posted you're doing like a 24-hour turnaround right now? Pretty almost in it's less than 24 hours, yeah. So go to the Albany County website, Albany County Library website, and you'll find the links. We also ask you to please pick up the campaign literature. It cannot remain at the library because this is a county building and they're not allowed to have campaign literature here. So if there's literature that doesn't belong to you, but you know the other candidate or you're a member of their party and wouldn't mind picking that up and taking it with you, otherwise it's going to get thrown away. And I know campaign literature is very expensive, and I hate to see that happen to candidates, that they lose some of that material, and they might want to distribute it to other places since we're still, about 2 weeks out from the election. Yes, and there are also coasters here. You can take these with you if you want one for yourself, or you have places you could distribute them. They have the QR code for the vote411.org website that has all the questions and answers that candidates gave to our voter guide, as well as other general information about Wyoming elections and Albany County elections. And we ask you to please help pick up chairs when we're done mingling, and to remind you all to please vote. So thank you all.
Could I just ask one of the Democrats
Mingle,
to grab
mingle.
my brochures?
Or was that? Shelley, are you saying something to us? We didn't catch it.
Yeah, I just would like, could one of the Democrats grab my brochures and and my number and everything's on there. I can get it from them tomorrow whenever it's convenient.